Hey folks, Chris here, top of the episode, to say thank you to our Patreon folks. They are Taylor, Drowrin, Miles, Randy, Yam, Colby, Thomas, Randy G, Laszlo, Hovo, H-O-V-O, Jeremy, Ben, Garth, Tyler, Nelson, Clorpdonk, Cody, Hygienic, Ty, Eldrick Owl, and newcomer, Derek. Hey, thanks for support. We really appreciate that. If this is your first time listening to us, maybe you're joining us from the Stories and Lies folks or the Suffer Not folks. Hey, we're an actual play podcast that just like them. We take things a little bit more looser here. We go for a friends at the table vibe more than anything. So if you're looking for a little bit more laughs mixed in with your horror or space adventure, then you found the right place. And yeah, we're going to be talking about Delta Green today, and I hope that you guys enjoy this. So, yeah, later. Howdy, everybody. We're here for a special, another interview episode, but this time I have two guests with me. I think this is the first time I've done an interview with two people. I guess I should say that. We're going to have our good friend Cody joining us today, and our good friend Thomas from, respectively, they are with the awesome and amazing podcast Suffer Not, and then we have Stories and Lies joining us. So, hey guys, thanks for coming.
Hello, thank you.
I'm glad to be here. This is great.
Yeah, so Cody and I had a little conversation about a month or so ago, and Thomas had made a comment that he really wanted to join in. So we're like, well, why can't he? So we got together to bring the melding of our GM handler minds and discuss some topics here. And the first thing that we kind of want to kick off is we're all tangentially, well, Thomas, you're in the thick of Delta Green still. We're still kind of toying with the idea. And Cody, you have done Delta Green in the past, but you're currently doing Call of Cthulhu. But we want to talk about published scenarios for Delta Green. And just kind of go over, probably some of our favorites, how they work, what we've changed in some of them, those kind of things. And so, yeah. I guess I kind of think it would be cool to start off with how many of these scenarios have you guys run versus played in? I can go down the list here real quick if you guys want.
Yeah.
Let me see. Let me pull this.
Let's go.
It's a long list.
It is
a long list.
So we're gonna go through this. We've got Music from a Darkened Room. We've got Reverberations. Now these are the official releases, I should say. This is not shotgun scenarios or anything like that. So, but yeah. So we have Music from a Darkened Room, Reverberations, Viscid, Extremophilia, The Star Chamber, Observer Effect, Sweetness. We got Caligati, PX Poker Night, The Last Equation, Lover in the Ice, Hourglass, Ex Oblivion, Future Perfect Part 1, Future Perfect Part 2. We got Future Perfect Part 3 and 4. So there's a lot there. A Victim of the Art, Jack Frost. And then we kind of go into the bigger ones, like Iconoclast. That's a pretty big, hefty campaign. We've got Convergence, From the Dust, Impossible Landscapes. We've got, what else do we got here? We got Black Sat, Night Visions, Sick Again, Wormwood Arena, Puppet Shows, and Shadow Plays. And then I think there was what's the newer one that came out that they released as kind of like a new starting point that I don't see on this list.
Is it Meridian?
Meridian, yes, thank you. So I think that is Prescience is one.
Oh, there's Presence as well.
Yeah. Last Things Last, God's Teeth, and then yep, there it is, Meridian. Yeah, On the Bank of the Moonlight, Operation Aladdin's Cave, Dead Letter, The Good Life, and then God's Eye. There's a lot of stuff here.
Yeah, there is.
So I could start off with this. I have only played. I played 3 official scenarios. I have played From the Dust, I have played The Good Life, and I have played in Future Perfect. I believe the guy that ran it kind of melded everything together, so I think it was that one, and I think we did all of them kind of just hodgepodged in together. At least like 2 of them. So
From the Dust is one that we did together.
We did, yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the few that I have played in. So that's kind of cool.
And as for running these scenarios, I've obviously run Music from a Darkened Room for our podcast. I've run Extremophilia for a home game, and I have run Hourglass. I've run it twice now. So,
all right, good.
And I've run from the Dust was another one I've ran. And I really, really want to run Dead Letter. That one is right up my alley. So, but I'll let one of you discuss what you've done. So.
My list is a lot shorter. I've only played in, from the ones you read off, PX Poker Night and Lover and Ice. Those are the only 2 official ones I've ever played through, because the most of my Delta Green playtime was in the Sleeping Low show, and that was all homebrew. So, which was a lot of fun. But I mean, PX Poker Night was a lot of fun. That was one of the practice games that we did, and so was Lover in the Ice, which we recorded that one, but. We all kind of looked at each other afterward. We looked at each other and said, "This can't see the light of day," And Chris and I have talked about that before, and especially with how vocally talented CJ was in that project with acting out the weirdness. We'll say,
oh, yeah.
It was extremely.
Yeah, I could see. Okay.
These types of games, and we talked about these types of games, don't typically make me uncomfortable. That one made me very uncomfortable. But as far as Delta Green goes, that's all I've played. And I've tried to stay away from the lore and the books and stuff, because when I do eventually hopefully play it, I want to be as blind as possible. You know what I mean?
That's a good idea.
Oh, absolutely. Thomas, what you got?
Yeah, I mean, God, I'm gonna have I'm not gonna go over all this, but I'll put it this way: when I first got into Delta Green, of course, I was the handler, and so when you're brand new into an RPG system, one of the first things that I was doing, maybe you guys are the same, is I'm reading scenarios to see what is this game really about? What's it like? What are the stories? What are the themes? How do they make this into a horror investigation as opposed to just like a regular RPG? And I just was voraciously reading all these scenarios. So I've read almost all of them, and I've luckily not read all of them because I can't play. The one we did From the Dust, I didn't read. Mm-hmm. The newer ones I haven't read. I haven't read any of the God's Teeth stuff because I'm going to play that one, thankfully.
Yeah, same.
But I've pretty much ran all the Night in the Opera stuff. Hourglass is a great one. Dead Letter we did for Stories and Lies. We're currently doing for Stories and Lies, Ghost Lights, which I took PX Poker Night, and that'll be revealed. I redid PX Poker Night and turned into Ghost Lights. So
nice. Okay.
Essentially I'm running that. So, but gosh, I've done a bunch of other ones that just, over the years I've forgotten them. But yeah, but what I wanted to say is when I picked this topic is as a brand new person to Delta Green, these written scenarios really informed me of what is Delta Green? It's these stories, and so many of these stories are really different, like Night Floors and of course Impossible Landscapes, very different than all the other Delta Green stuff, but Future Perfect and Victim of the Art and, the other one, Sweetness, all these little introductory ones. I've done some of those.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's a lot there. There's a lot, as we know.
There'll probably be spoilers in this too. We should preference that.
If you didn't notice that already, yeah.
To me, like you said, getting into Delta Green and reading the scenarios, it was trying to find that one that felt right for my group. And so I actually tried to run Hourglass for my first scenario I tried to do it as a one shot, and it went horribly. Absolutely.
That's too bad.
It was one of the, I don't, there's something about Hourglass I don't know how to run. And I feel like it's a me problem because I've run it twice now and both groups have just stalled out on what to do. Unless it's that narrowly focused.
Yeah, they got to make some choices. They have to be proactive. Right. It's a sandbox. Hourglass is a sandbox scenario where there's a problem and it's like, all right, players, what do you want to do to solve it? It's your choice. And they have to make a plan, and they have to execute their plan. And there's a lot of bad ideas.
Right.
The players come.
What do you guys do when you have a situation like that, where you have a really big sandbox and characters are kind of floundering? Outside of just like a big neon sign that says, "Go to this area, do this thing." You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think for me, it's a lot of hints.
Yeah.
Like when second time I ran Hourglass, they didn't want to go to visit the church. They had no interest in going there.
Mm-hmm.
None of that. And I'm like, well, then I have to put enough details when they go to the, I actually had recorded some of like the audio points that they find at the library. I recorded stuff and like layered it so they could maybe hear the stuff if they listen loud enough. And I did all of these steps to kind of make these points in there. But yeah, just that kind of stuff of they go talk to somebody and be like, yeah, I don't know, but like always try to have hints at where they go. Like, could it be this? Yeah, she was part of this church, the church down the road. I don't know about that. The next person they talked to was like, yeah, she was really involved with that church.
Yeah.
She was there for a long time. She recently left. I don't know. That church is kind of weird.
Huh, maybe we should go to the church.
Right. Hoping that they'll get the hint.
That's odd because, I mean, all roads lead to that compound in that story.
Yeah, both. The second group was very standoffish to go there. The first group, they went there and it went bad. Really bad. And so that ended up being a one shot because everyone got killed pretty quickly. But yeah, again, that's what I think it's a me problem, and I fully admit that maybe there's something about the way that I'm running it doesn't fit. Because when I ran Extremophilia, we had no problems with that. Those guys were locked in, and that was honestly, I think that's my favorite scenario to run. Like if I could run that again and get that same reaction I got in those first like 2 or 3 sessions, I would be the happiest GM in the world. It was, oh yeah. We did a closed session with them as well. So while one person was investigating this, one person's investigating this, and when they meet up and they both mention the same smell of earthy blah, 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 and the look on their faces of like, what did you just say? Like, shit. And like realizing all of these things. Or the first time one of them gets infected and puts a nickel in their mouth and starts chewing on it. Like, just the palpable dread and just like, what the fuck I got from the crowd was just amazing. So,
yeah, I like that one. There's a lot of great subtle clues, and if your players pick up on it, that feels like the investigation drives itself. And when that happens, those are the best games. Where I'm kind of backseat GMing. I'm just giving information. They're making decisions, and I'm happy with their choices. And they're leading themselves to the next logical story point, and and I can unfold it and let them drive it. But the story's going where it naturally should go. Those are the great games.
Right.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. I would say, do you approach each scenario the same way like you want to, I don't know, I'm trying to think of the best way to say this. Like when you go to run Extremophilia versus like music from a darkened room, are you approaching them the same way? Or are you looking at them and saying like, how can I make this story have a distinct flow to it? Or do you just like, yep, I'm the GM, I'm going to read and make sure all these plot points happen? Like, how do you guys approach that when you're reading these pre-made scenarios?
So I've only ever DM'd in Call of Cthulhu. But Delta Green or I've only done Call of Cthulhu. I've done like
very
D&D
similar,
and Pathfinder and like, Mothership, that type of shit. But I've purposefully avoided running Delta Green because I want to play it. But anyway, this is like when I'm reading like Call of Cthulhu scenarios, and it depends, like some of them are written differently. Some of them are written with a shit ton of detail and some of them are extremely vague. I usually end up adding a lot of my own stuff if there isn't already a lot of detail, like Blackwater Creek. That one's got a lot in it. It's got a lot of good stuff, and so I don't usually feel like I need to add a whole ton. Maybe a side character here and there, maybe a little clue. And obviously the players are going to play how they want to. And every single time I've run that, they always go. Have you guys played or run that before?
I have not. No, I'm just getting into Call of Cthulhu. So
okay,
I haven't done either, but I have heard that one as an actual play.
Yeah, it's really I enjoy running that one. But when you are making your characters, and there's pre-made characters also, it specifically asks, do you want to play as like the typical scientist, college professor people, or do you want to be bootleggers, that are there doing illegal shit? And so it's two games in one. I have never run it with the college professors. Everybody, every time has picked the bootleggers, and it's a lot of fun.
Absolutely. I mean,
yeah.
Mhm.
But anyway, my, I guess, answer to the question is it depends on how it's written. When I did, what was the one we did where the person's playing music, it makes people go crazy? The Afflicted. That is a one-page scenario. There's very little detail. So you got to go in, you got to make up a lot of stuff, right? And build your own narrative structure with just the idea they've given you, as opposed to something like Blackwater Creek, which is a tome of information that you get to play with, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
It's very long-winded. Sorry.
No, you're good. That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on what the story structure is going to be. I mean, if I'm doing a traditional Delta Green or Call of Cthulhu structure, which basically has like your inciting incident and your investigative stage, where your players are learn what the mystery is and they do their investigation, and there's going to be, pitfalls and surprises and whatever. But it's kind of linear. It's got a branching story, but it's pretty linear as far as your structure goes. Like, I put a lot of focus on the beginning. I got to know the beginning. I know the mystery, what my hook is. I have to be able to describe it effectively, give them the right directions, know what my clues are going to be, and then work on, okay, what are some things I want to do down the road? Let them drive the bus. That's that structure, and then work it towards a conclusion that makes sense. All right. But some stories don't do that.
Right.
And those stories need a lot more prep, especially the ones that are more sandboxy or the ones that are just weird, in good ways, weird, If we're talking about Delta Green, Observer Effect, I won't spoil that, but that's got an unusual structure that you have to really prepare for. There are certain stories that when you read them, you're like, okay, this is different. I got to actually do more prep work on this. I got to wrap my head around it, But most of the time for these stories, we're doing investigative horror. So most of the prep work is on the front end. Know the mystery, know the hook, know the inciting incident, know the beginning. Like the first hour is my job. As a GM, probably you guys know the same thing. Like, we're doing all the talking up front. Unless you want your characters to describe themselves, set the scene, whatever. We're doing all the talking, laying all the clues out, and eventually you can hand the reins over to your players and let them tell the story. So it's really preparing the front end more so than the back. And the back end, you should know what that's going to be, but you got to be flexible with that.
Yeah, it's tough. Especially the one thing I will say Delta Green has taught me a lot is learning more about how things work. Like, for example, when we were doing Extremophilia, I didn't know, like, there's a large mountain in Montana or Wyoming or whatever, Devil's Peak, I guess what it is. I didn't know that was a real place. Like, I assumed it was a real place, but I didn't realize how massive it was. And so at the end of it, there's a chance that they run into this guy. I'm like, yeah, you guys could probably climb up it in a day or like a couple hours. And then we afterwards we Google this thing. I'm like, oh no, that tiny little speck on the screen is a person climbing that. Like, no, there's no way in hell. So it's really forced me to try to ground things a lot more and figure out how things work so I can at least have some semblance of a reasonable story, not just completely asinine where it's like, no, that doesn't make any sense. But I do like that about it. But I guess answering my own question on this, I tend to approach them roughly the same. Like when I ran Extremophilia, it opened my eyes, and then I knew that I wanted to spin out of Music from a Darkened Room, so I started taking those elements and kind of like, I want to make a campaign out of this, so what can I take from this and morph and kind of bend and make work? So I think, I don't know, I have a hard time with doing a Delta Green scenario that's just these missions packed together with no no narrative in between them. I think that's what the really good thing that you guys do, Tom, is you guys have that background story that fills in these arcs. And I know that there are home scenes and whatnot in Delta Green that are supposed to help bridge these gaps, but without like a larger overarching narrative, I always find it kind of weird to do a Delta Green combat or just like campaign like that where you're just running published scenario after published scenario with like real no loose connection to them.
I ran a Call of Cthulhu campaign like that where it was just me and some friends, and we ran Blackwater Creek, and then we were like, oh, that went really good. Let's play those characters again. And then we played Mist Dews, which is the other like beginner entry level thing.
Okay.
And we figured, we had like a at home scene. We played it similar to like the Delta Green, right? Like, okay, this is the characters at home. This is how do you like spend your recreation time? And then here's another plot hook to like get them back into it. And then after that one, there was another big hook, oh, your friend got abducted and now he's at, the asylum. And we were going to run the, I forget the name of it, but there's one that takes place at Danvers mental asylum, which was also a real place. And it was genuinely horrific in its own way. But yeah, and then that was gonna continue where like, oh, there's this big bad guy that is causing chaos that, they have to pursue. Or not if they want to just like, there's like a world ending threat. Nah, I don't care. I'll just like go drink beer at home. They could do that. And then the other characters could find someone else, but yeah.
Yeah. No,
Yeah, I'm going on campaigns. I found it hard, at least in theory, to do a Call of Cthulhu campaign, but in practice, it actually wasn't that hard. At least because what I did was I ran the Haunting, right? Everyone's run the Haunting, and that's like the beginner operation. The haunted house and the old wizard buried there. I guess I'm not spoiling too much, but my players didn't completely resolve it. Like we finished that story without them really resolving all the mysteries. And so I just picked up those same characters and then some of the mysteries that were unresolved, like this church that guy was a part of, right? And this dagger that they didn't recover and all these aspects of it. And I kind of created, I can't remember the name of that church was, Church of Contemplation, something like that, where basically their ruin was dug out. And I think there was actually a published adventure that I borrowed from that did this. But I took that story and ran with that for a while. And then I actually made another story after that with, I can't remember. There was one of my characters in their background had some artifacts that I essentially tied to Innsmouth.
Oh, nice. Okay.
And so I had some people from Innsmouth coming to get these maps and basically dragging the characters off to Innsmouth. And I ended up doing like an escape from Innsmouth sort of thing. So I was able to kind of sneak that story in by just connecting one of my characters' backgrounds in a fake way. Little tiny tack-ons we do to just link these stories together.
Right. But
I think for Delta Green, I do some similar stuff. I mean, I have entirely different investigations, entirely different scenarios, like even published scenarios, right? As long as you can have a through line of these people, like what their lives are like, what's different about their lives, what's interesting about these people, and as they grow and change in their relationships or exploring aspects of their bonds, their background, whatever, you can link stories together in meaningful ways that your players really appreciate.
Yep, definitely. Yeah. Is there anything you guys don't like about some of these scenarios or ones that you don't think you're ever gonna mess with? Like I don't think I'll ever run Lovers in the Ice just because I don't want to deal with the subject matter with my group. But yeah, is there any of that stand out to you guys that you read through? You're like, this is not for me.
There's a couple Cthulhu ones I've read that just seemed boring to me.
Okay.
Like there was one where it's essentially like a dungeon crawl. They're just going through dark cave. I ran it to like try to challenge myself a little bit. Like would this be fun? Like this is different for sure. But it's like again I forget the name of it. But they go into like the basement of this house. And then it turns out there's all this like tunnel network, and it's the ancient lizard people's tunnel network, and it caves in behind them, and oh my god! And then there's a monster in there too, and they have to go through this like labyrinth of just dark tunnels, up until they find like a lizard wizard and have to fucking shoot him in the head or something. But it's like, I remember reading that, and I put it off for a really long time because that just doesn't sound super fun for a Call of Cthulhu game. Maybe a more combat-driven D&D type of thing where it's like, oh, we run into a bunch of goblins in a hallway and kill them all. It's like, no, it's just dark and there's something creepy. And, you can only say that so many times. Like, oh, something skitters behind you and you hear claws against the, stone, whatever. Right. And then you find the guy and then one of them was packing heat and just blew the fucking wizard away, And maybe
Of
I could,
course.
maybe I, you know, I'm sure I could have run that a little differently, but that's, I ran it close to how it was written to be done. And you know, characters are what I really like. I like character conversations and relationships and that when we're playing these types of games, at least. So if it's really lacking in that type of stuff, then it's, sorry. There was a really dumb one. I can't remember what it was called, but the ending was like, it was a lot of really cool buildup. Like they get onto a boat and they're looking for another boat, and then they find an island, and then they open a door, and it's just Cthulhu. It's just Cthulhu. It's just there, and that's the end of it. And it's like, man, it's just a bunch of buildup, and then it's just Cthulhu in a doorway. You know what I mean? I don't know. It just it was such a the ending really. Anyway, that's two, and I can't even name them. So
yeah, I think I remember Jake talking about The Good Life when we played it, and he's like, "Yeah, man, it's basically just a big dungeon crawl. Like, so you're gonna get you're gonna to a point, and there's gonna be a big dungeon crawl at points, and then we'll see how you guys handle that part, and then get to the rest of it." But I was like, and then it made sense when you get to the house and some of the warrens underneath it and everything. You're like, okay, yeah, I see where this is going, but I don't know if I would run that one. I'd have to read it to see if there was more there, but I think it would be really hard to run that one because there's a lot of obviously racial undertones.
I think we're talking the same because it was the slave trade tunnels, right? And then
this one they're ghoul warrens, but yeah, they are the basically they're KKK ghouls.
Oh, okay. We're thinking different ones. The one I was thinking, it was like the underneath the house were these like I think it was like underground railroad tunnels, and then those led into more tunnels that were the lizard people ones, which is kind of, you know, it's a cool historical setting, but also
yeah. So on that topic, basically, obviously, same with you guys. If there's subject matter that I just feel uncomfortable running, or my players are not going to enjoy, because I also feel like Lover in the Ice. A lot of people like that story, but I don't feel great running that story. I've read that story and I was like, I just don't want to bring this to the table. Yeah. So I haven't run that one either. But it's got to be, I got to like the story. Ultimately, when I read it, I go like, oh, this is a cool story. When I was reading it as a GM, I'm reading the published scenario. You got to have a sense like, I like this story. Mm-hmm. You know, like I don't, and you don't know where it's going to go. I mean, obviously you never know where your player's going to take it, but you just reading it gets you inspired. Like, oh, I want to see this unfold. I want to see how this plays out. I like these characters. I like this conflict. I like the tension, whatever it is about the story. It's got to resonate with me. And a lot of Delta Green stuff does. A lot of Call of Cthulhu stuff does. And then, I mean, some stuff doesn't. We don't run that stuff, but sometimes I'll change stuff too. Like a great example is for Delta Green, I ran over on Stories and Lies. I ran something I call Static, right? Which is not a Delta Green story. It's a Call of Cthulhu story. And it's originally called Unremembered is the name of that scenario. And that one, the third act, I threw out in the entire third act. Like I read it and I love the first two parts and I didn't like the third act at all. So I'm like, fuck it. I got a whole other idea what I want to do with this. Because in the third act, the characters travel to Carcosa and there they go to the throne room of the King in Yellow. And there's like a combat scene, which is just weird to me. And then they succeed by rescuing these children, you know, the motivating, what do you call them? The characters have been looking for these kids the whole story. That's their goal. They've been trying to find these kids. Mm-hmm. They find them in Carcosa. And if they can bring them back to Earth, they get sanity rewards as part of Call of Cthulhu. That's how they're written. But I didn't like that. I read that. I'm like, no. I'm not doing that story. You know, I like something darker. So I completely revamped the third act as, you know.
I think it's a better act. I think you did a good job there. So.
Well, and how do you guys, if there's a mechanic you really don't like, so like sanity is one. I've tweaked how I do sanity in my things. Mm-hmm. How do you guys deal with those types of mechanics? Like, do you just tweak them a little bit or just forego them, you know? Or what are examples?
I like stories or Pretend to Be People, how they changed sanity rolls to grip rolls, and so you're losing your grip on reality. I thought that was a cool take on it to kind of lessen the, obviously, the impact of you're playing the character slowly going insane, and people are going to roleplay that in a particular way, and there probably is some gray area there whether it's appropriate or not to be roleplaying somebody losing their mind.
Sure.
But I think you can also do it tastefully and done. But no, I can give during Music from a Darkened Room, the house has this willpower pool, and you spend willpower as the house to do these certain haunts or effects on the players. And I was just like, no, fuck that. I just want cool shit to happen, so I'm going to just do whatever I want. Like, whatever makes sense for the scene to build tension and to, like, drive home that this house is out to get them, I'm going to choose that one. I'm not going to worry about where its willpower score is. Like, that doesn't...
That's odd that it was... it put a limitation on you, the DM? Like you had a game mechanic?
I mean, the house has, like, 100 willpower points, and each action costs willpower. And then as the players enter the house and they do certain things, they can actually give willpower to the house for certain actions they did. So there's a whole mechanic in there about it. And I was just like, I think it's just more interesting to pick the ones here that are whatever plot points they've picked up upon. I'm going to drive those ones more than anything. And so, like, case in point, they started exploring the young boy that is killed. And so I was like, well, any haunts with the little boy, I'm gonna have trigger. I'm not gonna worry about this. We're gonna focus on that and really drive home that narrative to creep them out and to get them.
Yeah.
And there's really cool stuff in there. Like, and it all depends on what time you go to the house. There's a whole bunch of cool. And there's a whole other part that they didn't even get to, dealing with the house and, like, underneath the house and everything. But yeah, it's just more. I like the idea of it, but I was like, I don't have to be beholden to this. Like, we're trying to tell a fun story here, and I think the players will appreciate me going for this versus, well, I've only got 7 willpower left for today, so I think I can only do these 2 things. It's like, no, what's going to be scary and what's going to be fun to experience. So,
yeah. In music, you did a great job with music. I liked your guys' run through of music. But it's a sandbox. It's a sandbox story. You were mentioning how Hourglass, also a sandbox story, was one you felt weird about. But I think you did a great job with music because you just let things happen. Just, as they naturally would, and the story followed the beats, did the cool haunts when the cool haunts are supposed to show up. Didn't worry about, all the other, it is, if you let it just kind of play it by ear, I think it has more magic to it.
Absolutely, yeah. And like I really wanted to run Meridian for the podcast as well when it first came out, but it's only a 2-player scenario, so I was like, I don't know. I don't know if it would lose I think it would lose some of the magic if you had more than 2 players. Like, the whole point is these they're both part of this group, just 2 trying to make a name for themselves. And I thought that was a more compelling story than adding 2 more people there just because I want to run this scenario. You know what I mean?
Yes, you mean.
But
yeah, but getting back to the question that Cody mentioned, I try really hard to stick to the mechanics as best I can. I think because the players are used to them. I mean, the players I play with are used to them. And I think the audience, when I'm doing something that's recorded, the audience is used to them. So I don't want to homebrew it too much, but I do shade things where I can. One thing that I have noticed that I do, in Delta Green, as players hit these breaking points, they get these mental, I don't know what you call those. They're not defects, but they're,
I know
conditions.
Conditions.
Yeah. They start stacking these conditions up on their character sheet, and any of these get triggered all the time. Like, if you follow the mechanics strictly, like, they're constantly triggering these conditions, which I find to be bad for the story. Like, I don't need my story to be every time you fail a roll, you're going crazy. So I'll often let those things go, ignore those things, or just let the players deal with it so the players can decide, this makes me lose it. And the player can roleplay that. But I'm not going to force them to go manic every single time things are happening to them, because I think it detracts from the story. So sometimes I'll ease up on things like that.
Interesting.
I think Call of Cthulhu has a cool way of handling that, where, like, once you hit a breaking point in Call of Cthulhu, or you have that temporary insanity, like, you can't take any more sanity damage until, like, that runs its course. I thought that was kind of a cool mechanic they did, but I think that's how it works. I could be wrong. I haven't played a whole ton yet, but sorry I cut you off, Cody.
Oh, no, you're good. Are you lagging a little bit? Am I lagging a little bit? Is that me or you?
No, I think Chris was lagging for just a
Okay.
sec there.
I might have
Chris,
been.
you back
You're
to
back.
normal?
Yeah, I
Yeah, he's
should
back
You're
to normal
Okay,
now.
beautiful. I managed to pick it up. It just sounded like a robot underwater.
It'll do that sometimes. I apologize.
No, that's okay. But like, there's a lot of interesting ways that you can deal with potentially traumatic things that characters are going through. It doesn't have to just be like fucking going crazy or necessarily seeing things. Like, people in real life develop, and I'm not saying that, necessarily, sometimes maybe it's inappropriate to act out certain disorders, you know what I mean? But if a character goes through a really traumatic, like, near-death experience, and there was other paranormal shit going on, like, some people will convince themselves, oh, it's because I hit the light switch 3 times before I left. And then every single time they leave a room, they have to hit the light switch 3 times. Like, that's a very mundane thing that you could introduce to a character outside of just like, oh, they see things now, or they hear voices in their head, or whatever, or they have like anger issues or something. I don't know. And also just like a really slow decline. I think in some of the games I've run or played in, you take so much psychology, and this is why I don't like having sanity as just a static, 0 to 100, because it's a very complicated thing. Your mental health is much more complicated than just a number on a piece of paper. And I think it's more interesting when you play it that way. So, and like in Suffer Not, we don't announce what the character's sanity is. Like, we keep track of it, we roll it. I don't think it's ever been. Maybe it's been said out loud. You've taken this much.
I don't think you guys have ever done a sanity roll or anything like that.
Not that you've heard.
Yep.
Right.
That's a good point. Yeah, you're right. I don't remember that either.
But potentially, you start to see character changes. Character traits develop over time is the plan, at least for the. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's the tough part of Delta Green. There is, how do you respectfully portray characters that are slowly losing their grip on reality? And like, I know the home game that we played with Future Perfect, my character, I think I got down to like 20 sanity by the end of that. And so he had developed this kind of god complex that he thought, since he survived this, nothing could fuck with him. He's on top of the world. And so I would have it come out only when I critically failed a sanity roll. Then I would revert to that other, like, I would get that complex. So yeah, I thought that was a good way to handle it. But like you said, I just had, like, in the home scenes, I had little things of him just like, he was trying really hard to get back on this track and do these things and eating healthy, and then he just slowly starts to, like, just stop after time and go back to his old ways of just sitting in a car, eating fast food, watching people, kind of thing. So, I think that's what I like about Delta Green, is the home scenes, and being able to, if you have a group that is really focusing on that and wants to really give their characters a good fleshed out area there, I think it's awesome.
Yeah, I don't think I would ever run a game like this again without that mechanic. I love it so much. It humanizes the characters and really gets the players, like, into the world, I think.
Yeah, totally. What's your guys' favorite scenario that you've run or played in? I know we've gone over a list here, but what takes the cake as far as, you can go with Call of Cthulhu here too, there, Mr. Cody. I would say, I can say probably my favorite I played in was From the Dust. I thought that was a really fun scenario. I love the way Matt handled it. I thought him bringing in, he brought in a lot of stuff that isn't necessarily in the book to kind of help flesh stuff out, and I thought that was really, really cool. And yeah,
that's good.
I thought that's probably my favorite I've played in. My favorite to run, like I said, I think Extremophilia is still my favorite that I've run. I think it's a really interesting, cool story. I love the I think it's a perfect encapsulation of me to Delta Green, of just little weird, like, just the horror of everyday reality slowly changing and turning, where, you go to this woman's house and she's like, oh, well, my baby's upstairs. It's like, well, you were only 7 months pregnant. What baby? And, like, that whole arc, or that whole situation, is some of the most, like, compelling, amazing, like, stuff on a page I've ever read of like how do you deal with that? Like how does a character come out of that unscathed? And like how is like I don't think there should be a sanity roll. I think it should just be an automatic failure in that situation. But yeah, I think those two are definitely my tops.
I think as much as I've railed on how uncomfortable it made me, I did have a lot of like enjoyment playing through Lover and Ice. And I think part of it is because like murder and blood and gore and whatever, like we see that all the time every day in movies and video games, and it's not that, I can play Dead Space for 8 hours, right? Like, but like, I think that when we played it, and I've never read the scenario, so I don't know, but I can absolutely imagine other people running that very distastefully, very inappropriately. But when we played it, I did really enjoy it. Like, I thought it was really, yeah, that was a good one that I played in. But would I run it? I don't know. I don't know if I have it in me to play some of those characters that you would need to in the way that you would need to,
Right.
And as far as running things, I already mentioned like Blackwater Creek has been a lot of fun. That I've run that one probably the most, just because it's so. That one is also it's like a playground for the characters to go through, and it's the ending to it when I've run it has anything from like a shit ton of dynamite is blowing up half a mountain to there was one time a character fucking thought he was infected and he fucking shot himself, and he was the last character. All the other characters had died, and this guy was driving out of town and he was like, am I infected? No. And I was like, well, roll like a difficult health check, whatever, right? And he like pats himself down, and I made him roll it secretly, so the player didn't know if he passed or failed the check. He rolled a critical failure, so it was like, okay, how on earth would he like feel himself and assume he was infected? Well, he had really bad back knee, and so he feels his really bad back knee and thinks, oh, I have all these infection pustules, and then he swallows 2 barrels and pulls the trigger, and that was the end of it. All the other characters had died. Yeah, so I enjoy running that one. It's just every single time it plays very differently.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of an example of the one I've played, but most of my thoughts of the ones I really, really enjoyed are the ones I've run, and I do most of my time I spend running these things.
That's
so
true. Yeah,
I'm like 85-90% running games by playing them. But I do want to echo Extremophilia, because when I ran that one, I'll put it this way. A lot of stuff happens in that story as when it comes to the table that I was not really expecting. The stuff that's on the page, but the drama that gets created by what's on the page was amazing.
Oh, absolutely.
It's just amazing.
And yeah.
I mean, because you're mentioning, of course, the baby in that story it's just there in the paper, but when you bring that to life, how it affects the players and what they have to do about that was amazing.
What is the premise?
So that's
you guys
great.
have mentioned this one a couple times. What is the premise of this one? So
for Extremophilia, it's pretty much like a sheriff got sick and died, and we don't know why. And when you investigate, you find he came into contact with this guy who just disappeared. So you're trying to track down that guy. You're trying to figure out what's happening with this infection. Other people are catching this infection, like the coroner, the guy's family, the sheriff's family. You're like, where's the infection going? It's got vectors, and who is this guy? And then what's really going on that made this guy infected? You got tracing all these backwards in time.
And on top of that, the players can get infected too.
Yes. So there's a lot of interesting aspects, but it's great. It's like just a little tiny, something weird happened here. And then they dig into it, and discover this whole other story. That's a lot of fun.
It just it truly is like, it's, I think after hearing you guys run it is what really solidified me to do it, Tom. Your first podcast you did, it's like, man, this shit seems pretty cool. And so I've downloaded it because I was still so new to getting into Delta Green. I remember looking for Delta Green podcast, and I think I found the original one you did. And I was like, okay, all right, this is okay, let's do it. And so I jumped into it with that my first one and ran it. And I was like, this is incredible. So yeah, it's a good story. There's 2 other ones I want to mention.
my favorite Delta Green is Observer Effect.
Okay.
So I don't know if have you read that one or not?
I have not.
I have not.
So I won't spoil that one then.
Yeah, I was told not to read a bunch of them because we were potentially going to run them. So
yeah, maybe one of these days I'd love to run that one again. That's a great story. It's just a great story. Shane Ivey is the writer, and it's got such a delicious hook that no other Delta Green story has. I don't want to spoil it.
Okay,
but it's great. So that one's great. I like it because it's a one location mystery. You know what I mean?
Oh.
Like it all takes place at one location. It's got like a cast of characters, maybe like 5 or 6 characters you have to know as NPCs. So it's, as a handler, you can really get a grasp on who these people are, what this place is, really play within it, kind of sandboxy. And for Call of Cthulhu, I love Saturnine Chalice, which is on the Deadlights, whatever that's called, supplement. Yeah. But that one's another one location mystery with a small cast of characters with just a little hooks, little clues that builds up to this great story. So those are kind of things I really like to run.
I kind of want to run Ex Oblivion just because, is it Oblivione or I don't know how to say that.
Yeah.
That one seemed really interesting because I remember listening to the Glass Cannon run it. And I don't know how the ending that Grant runs that's how it goes in the book. So I'm really interested to read through that and see how it goes. Because I thought that was a really interesting tale. But
yeah, I need to see how they run it because I don't like how that one ends. Because it feels very...
It turns into like a big war, basically. Like they're trying to survive the town. So... I don't. Maybe that's how it's written. I don't know, but it seems like a really cool premise to start with. The hook is really good. The reveal was awesome, and then the end, I'm like, this doesn't feel really Delta Greeny. This feels like a war game at points. So
yeah, I was talking to someone about this one. That story has these wonderful themes of I guess revenge is the right word. Like it's really atonement for sins of the past. It's like things happened in the past that Delta Green did, and now it's all these old sins are coming back to roost.
Right.
And I think that story works if your players had some role in that, or there's some sins your players committed in the past that you can tie into this story. Because this really is like a revenge story. It's like a Wrath of Khan kind of story is what that one is.
Hey,
if you set that up right and you have players that kind of did some stuff they deserve, I think that those sorts of themes play better than just dragging 4 randos into a town and Mustang, and then all of a sudden the town's trying to kill them for no reason.
Yeah.
I don't like that as much.
Who knows? George is out doing whatever George is doing. Maybe it ties into that. So, it's very much, I don't know. There's so many different variety of things too when it comes to these scenarios. Like I appreciate that about them, where some of them are just like a monster of the week. Other ones just really just mess with you super mentally. And then you have like the iconoclasts and Impossible Landscapes and God Teeth are just such varied giant campaigns too, where it's like, I would like to try to run Iconoclast, but I just don't know if I could. It seems so daunting and like just a huge undertaking. So,
I mean, if you ever want to run it, I'll play.
I'll let you know. I might have some more free time here soon. We'll see. So my game, my Wednesday game might be coming to an end, or another game might be coming to an end. So I might have more time.
If you guys run that, you should definitely record it. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, you're good. You're really into that stuff too, aren't you? Like you're pretty military and gun focused, aren't you, Cody? Not like a bad way.
I mean, I like guns, and I read books and videos and such. Yeah, sure.
You play War Thunder, or whatever it is. You've possibly leaked CIA confidential material.
I did. I had a buddy. He left his laptop unlocked. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I think the one I really want to run the most right now, I really want to do Dead Letter. I loved your guys' run through that, Tom. And I love the premise of it. Like, Reanimator is one of my favorite H.P. Lovecraft stories, so having that kind of tied in and
it's a good movie
makes me even more stoked for it all. But definitely that's on the list of things to run eventually once I find a group to go back at the Delta Green. So
that's another sandbox story as well. So yeah, you have to similar sort of thing. You set it all up.
Yep.
Know your NPCs and let's see how your players want to interact with one. But that one, like Hourglass, you really have to have players that have a plan and have a good plan and are willing to execute their plan.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's
Well, and
it's a must for a lot of
that's
these.
something to know too. Like for people that are listening to this and like, oh, I want to run a game sometime. Like you got to really know your players too. If you have a group of people, and you know them pretty well, like when you go to the game store and start reading the back of books, does this sound like something they would interact well with, that they'd have fun with, that they would do? I have a buddy who, he tries to DM for the same group of people, like over and over and over again. And he comes into it with like, this idea of what he wants to play and run. But then those people are always doing something entirely different. And he comes away super disappointed. And I'm like, okay, but you know these people, they just want to like turn their brain off and kill goblins, right? And then you're presenting them with this kind of complex, like historical, narrative heavy, role play heavy thing, and then they're not engaging with it. And it's like, okay, well, I'm sorry you bought those books and it didn't work out, but you've played with them tons before. You know what I mean? Like, so anyway, like know your audience when you're going into it, for sure.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely. And I think that's I know, like when I sat down to get folks in the Delta Green, I sat down, I was like, hey, here are the scenarios I'm running, here's the pitch. This. Like, which one of these sounds the most interesting to you to try out? We select one, and then I'll kind of narrow it down. Like, I think these 3 would be really fun to run. Of those 3, which one do you guys think would be cool to play in? And then we kind of go that route. So it helps that way. Like you said, get your players invested, give them the story, give them a little bit to get them the juices in their brain going, and kind of roll out that way. So, but yeah, I think there's a huge variety when it comes to these scenarios, as we kind of talked about here. And I don't think there are any of them that are downright terrible or bad. They just have subject matter that I prefer not to fuck with. That's kind of my biggest takeaway from a lot of these. Like, I look at like, go the Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition, trying to run their first ever scenario they put out for 5e, which was Horde of the Dragon Queen or whatever, and it was a terribly designed adventure. Like, it's one of the worst things I've ever run in my life, and I did everything I could to salvage it, and it's poop. It's just straight poop. And I was like, I don't want to, like, and I can't think I've ever had a Delta Green scenario that I've read. I'm like, this is not good. Like, they're all like, really, this is really good. I just don't know if I want to. I don't know if I want to go through this.
Yeah. And I should say too, like the 2 that I kind of dogged on a little bit earlier, like, I'm not saying they were bad. It's just they had some good pieces, but then were lacking significantly in other areas. Like the one, it was really cool, and then the ending was just like also kind of poop. And then the other one, it's just like, I don't know. But yeah, I don't think there's been one I read that I was like, this is terrible. Or this is bad, or you should be ashamed for writing this. Get this out of my face and burn it.
I think one thing I want to say as well is I feel like for other role-playing games, people that are brand new to the game and brand new to the system, they can pull up a pre-written campaign or scenario, and it almost feels like that's like helps you as the GM tell a story when you're not really used to this world, not used to the storytelling. You're new. Like a lot of newer GMs use these, I guess, as a crutch. I don't know if that's the right word, but as a way to learn how to be a GM, right? And I do feel like Delta Green doesn't do that for its new GMs. No. And a lot of guys that are new to Delta Green, I'll see it all the time on message boards and discussion things. They're like, oh, I've heard about this great campaign. I want to learn how to play Delta Green so I can play this great campaign. And the reality is those great campaigns. I mean, usually Impossible Landscapes is the one everyone brings up, right? Those are really written with people that have played the hell out of Delta Green, or are kind of used to Delta Green and know it in and out, and now they want to do something different, But those are not. That is not an out the box campaign at all.
No,
and that is not a starter campaign. That is, and a lot of the stuff that we use that we get from Delta Green doesn't really tell you how to do this stuff that you need to do as a handler. It doesn't. So, I mean, I don't know. I'd like to find ones. We always recommend things like Last Things Last. That's a good example of what we recommend.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But I do feel like it's kind of hard for someone who's new to this, whether it's Delta Green or even Call of Cthulhu, investigative horror as a genre, to be a GM for it. is not something you can just do a pre-written. You can't pre-write those. I know they're hard to run. People do it, but I just feel like it's something you really gotta put some time into. Maybe listen to other guys do it. Maybe practice. Maybe participate. It's not a simple thing doing this. It took me a while when I was going. I was evolving from. I started with D&D when I was young, right? I evolved into the storytelling system. White Wolf, they're vampires, werewolves, mage, whatever. But that system, I evolved into that for like about 8 or 10 years. That was my world. And I had to change that way of being a GM into being a Call of Cthulhu and a Delta Green GM, which is a different way to run these games.
Oh, absolutely.
And I had to relearn a lot of stuff to do this.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah, I can hit a similar thing coming from like D&D and learning like Powered by the Apocalypse games, and then like Blades of the Dark. Just the shift of my brain to those really helped a lot coming into these Delta Green ones. And I'll absolutely give you that. I think that was kind of the big issue I had running Hourglass for the first time is I just have the stat for the police chief. And like, hey, this is police chief, blah, blah, blah. He works with blah, 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 and does blah, blah, blah. I was like, okay. And then I wasn't really comfortable enough to like give him his own persona of, well, what do I want to make this police chief? And I it's up to me to decide, is he going to be, and like, I think there are lines in there that he's antagonistic. He does these things, but it's up to me to how far does he go? It's up to me to decide where that line is going to be. And as a newcomer into it, it was really tough of like, well, I need his motivations. I need to know how I'm supposed to play him as a character. And so, yeah, it's definitely tough when you first get into it with that, because a lot of the stuff, they give you like 3 or 4 pages of just characters and stats, and like, here's a little blurb about their life. Here's a little blurb about their life. And, it's definitely tough. Definitely.
Yeah,
tough.
when you made a really good point with pre-written adventures are really good. Like if you've never run a game before, I highly discourage people. Generally, everybody's different, but I generally discourage people from just trying to write your own thing if you've never DM'd before or whatever. I know people have done it. I did that same thing when I was I played D&D, and then I tried to run it, and I wrote my own thing. And it was the most generic fucking shit ever, right? You all wake up in a tavern, and then, bad guys attack the town. It was extremely generic, but, when I was so like Suffer Not, I is all, written, right? By me. I've written all of it, and it is a lot to like spreadsheets and pages and pages and pages of words. It takes a lot of work. So if you're, wanting to make your own thing, you definitely need to practice a little bit. And also, like what you were saying, Chris, I think it's a little bit of improv and a little bit of prep and some mix ratio of the two. Especially if you have like a bunch of characters, like, oh, we go up and talk to the sheriff, and it's like, fuck, what does this guy sound like? You just got to make something up. If you've never thought about what this guy sounds like, especially, oh, we walk into a bar. What's the waiter sound like? What is, and you can kind of skip that a little bit. Like, oh, the waiter takes you to the table and sits you down, takes your order, walks away, right? You can do that too. But there's only so much of that you can do before you need to have a conversation. Oh, okay, we pull the waiter aside. You heard any weird stories around town? Maybe some lies? No, I haven't. Sure haven't. Bye. Anyway, yeah. But then also, you have to have the right characters like really prepped, like what you were saying. What is this guy's motivations? What are, does he have children? How old are the children, right? Or do they annoy him when he gets home and he wants to just like relax? Like, well, maybe that's why he's having a bad mood. You can go as deep as you want. Yeah.
No, I think, Tom, do you, when you're taking these pre-written scenarios that you have on Stories and Lies, and, obviously, this can go to you too, Cody, but you've kind of written all the NPCs yourself, but do you ever find yourself changing the motivations of the NPCs that are in the books from these scenarios that you're running? Like if you find a character, you're like, I think this character, I think they might do this way or this way, or what happens if I take this character and make it a little bit different and make them do this versus this? Like do you really ever mess with that?
I might do it unintentionally. I think what I end up doing is like, I read the scenario, I read the story, I try to internalize what are these people's motivations, who are these people, what are they about, if left to their own devices, what would they do? I try to figure out who these people are. And then when I do all that stuff in my brain, my brain comes up with a character for these people. And hopefully it matches what's written down. Many times it does, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes I just completely have a new person, right? But as long as I just try to be consistent with the character's motivations, and who they, who I want them to be, I guess, who they appear to be, and as long as I'm consistent so the players can pick up clues from things I'm throwing at them, then that's what I really want to do. It's just, I got to be consistent so that when they read between the lines of whatever if my character's being evasive, it's because the character's being evasive, not because I, the GM, is trying to remember something wrong or whatever, it's, I hopefully I can portray a person who's deceiving them, or portray a person who's innocent, whatever. I can act those things out and they can pick that up and they can utilize it correctly, and put a few things together and, and the story comes together.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's tough to get that all together, make that all ebb and flow and work. Especially, my players like to question a lot and they like to get really into the questioning. And so, there'll be certain times where I'm trying to, I want to be, like you said, I want to make sure I'm saying things that are sly, but also they're sometimes come off antagonistic and they be kind of dickheads. It's like, well, why would anybody not respond to you back in that kind of hostile way if you're coming at them super hostile? So I try to keep that in mind of like, I'm going to match their energy with how I think this character would match their energy. Like maybe they'll clam up, not say anything, or maybe they'll get combative because of just how this is going to go. So,
right.
Yeah. And I do feel like we as GMs have like X number of good NPCs in us per session, and everyone else is just a generic whatever.
Yeah.
You can only really come up with a cool character a couple of times a night. You can't just, it can't be the server and the waiter and the cook and the maitre d'. Right. It's got to be just maybe one of those is the cool character. The other ones are just, in the background.
And I got 3 voices. You got to deal with it. So I'll try to vary them up, but that's all I got.
Mm-hmm.
So nice. Well, I think that's a good stopping point for now. I would love to continue doing this with y'all if you are down with that.
That'd be great.
Yeah, I think it'd be cool. Yeah, do we know how often we want to? I mean, we can figure this out later, but
I think we can. Yeah, but for now, I guess if people are listening to this on like another channel, they don't know who you are. You guys want to plug your stuff real quick, and then we'll get this skedaddling and back to our normal lives.
I guess I'll go first. Yeah. All right. Yeah. And so I'm Tom Mogus. I'm with Stories and Lies. I'm the main handler, but from time to time I play different characters. And we've been going for 3 years now. We're primarily Delta Green with a little bit of Call of Cthulhu thrown in there. But we try to be very story centric. That's my mission, is I want to tell a cool story. And we let the players do their thing, really lean into it, a little more improv and a lot of great post-production work. And I feel like what we do in what Cody does are a lot of the same vein. So I'll let you take it away, Cody.
Yeah, and hi, I'm the main GM for Suffer Not, which is very similar, right? My goal has been to make a narrative cinematic show, right, with characters and sound effects and music and I think we generally do a pretty similar thing. The difference being that my stuff is primarily Call of Cthulhu, at least the show Suffer Not is. We play other stuff and we plan on making other shows in different systems. I'm not like married to Call of Cthulhu or anything like that. But also the show is set in a different time period. It's 1911 as opposed to the 20s or the 80s. So there's different challenges for both me, like researching stuff, and then the players, like, not only do they not have cell phones, they don't have phone booths. They have to find a telegraph if there's even one around them, So yeah.
Oh, nice. And I'm Chris. I'm the main GM handler, whatever you want to say, for Chaos Engine Podcast. We play Delta Green. We're currently doing Traveler. We've played a bunch of systems. We did a sweet Mothership arc with Tom's crew at Stories and Lies. We've done some 13th Age 2nd Edition. So yeah, we just try it. We did some Down Darker Trails, so we tried things out. But yeah, we try to go for more like friends at the table vibe and kind of more low key. But I think we have pretty good audio quality. That was a big thing for me, was making sure that quality is good.
Yep.
So we just, if you ever want to feel like you're hanging out with friends, let's play in a game. That's what we strive for. So hopefully we succeed. But yeah,
Good stuff.
yeah. So we'll be back. I'll say that much. When? Don't know, but we will be. So thanks everyone for listening.
Agreed. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for having us.